and observe, or is it
No,
opposite?
it's the other way.
Qualitative
Right.
is interviewing people.
Correct.
And quantitative is, there's a number.
Correct.
You use, samples out of the population, that
Correct.
kind of thing, statistics and.
Okay, right. So I'm using raw numbers here. In the qualitative realm, I'm using methods that have the ability to cause me to interject my own personal biases. It's difficult to introduce bias in the raw numbers, okay? So I can always go back, so let's say, there have been a number of studies in the news the last few years that have proven to be not true because they manipulated the results, okay? But I can always go back to the original results or the original numbers and follow where the mistake was made. I can't necessarily do that in a qualitative study unless I exactly duplicate that study. Qualitative has you have a greater ability of interjecting your personal bias. So what the role of the researcher in a qualitative study is to do everything possible to mitigate bias, okay? So one way we do that is through triangulation. We conduct an interview as one way of a qualitative, is one method of qualitative study. But I don't just take this person's word for it. I ask that person for additional information to support what they have told me. I also then go and look at other information that's out there in the ether. Or I do a contrast and comparison to what this person said to me and the other person I interviewed to see whether or not there's common ground there. If this person said to me, it was a snap for me to get $1 million. And this person said I had to work really, really hard to get the $1 million. There's a big discrepancy here. What's that discrepancy? Okay. Now, it may be this person asked his daddy for the $1 million or his mommy, and this person came from, didn't come from that type of background. When Donald Trump says, it was difficult for, my daddy only gave me $1 million and it was a small loan, it's like, well, that's a pretty big loan to me. I wish somebody would give me $1 million. Wouldn't you take it? And think about when he got the $1 million, which was way back when, how much money that's worth now. So maybe it's worth $20 million now. I don't know if it's worth that much, but I'll take $20 million. I know a lot of startups that would take $20 million. That would be, a good seed money for them. So I use other processes and procedures and protocols to verify information. But I can never mitigate bias 100%. I can create bias over here if I interpret the information incorrectly, but I can always go back to the original numbers and redo it more easily. Here I literally have to conduct a whole entire new study and do it in the exact same way that that other person did. So in methodology, we're looking at the sample size, okay? So in a quantitative study, I want a large sample because it provides more credibility, correct? In a qualitative study, I can't do the same sample size as I did in a quantitative study. So if I have a 1,500, people that I have, gotten information about in a quantitative study, can I do that in a qualitative study? Can I interview 1,500 people? Is that a reasonable thing to ask a researcher to do?
No.
No. Time, money, access to people, whole bunch of things happen. So what I do is I get a smaller subset of the population. So for my study, I only have to interview 5 people. And I'm having a hard time getting 5 people to interview because they don't respond to me, you know, I'm not quite sure what the story is. I have sent out over 60 invitations. I've hand-delivered them, I've sent them through the mail, I've sent them via email, I've connected with them on LinkedIn, and I still have not gotten the response that I was expecting. Even if I look at an average response rate of 10%, that would be 6 people. So I should have 6 people who would have responded and said, yes, I'll sit for an hour interview. But no, I haven't. So I'm like in a quandary. It's causing me a lot of angst, trust me. I just want to be finished with my doctorate, trust me. So, so in the qualitative study, we have a smaller sample size. But the problem is, with the smaller sample size, it's not necessarily transferable. So meaning, I'm going to have